How is it going? My name is Hayley. Welcome back to Set to Hike. Today's dehydrated recipe, we're going to make my version of beef stroganoff. For this recipe, you will need 500 grams of lean minced beef, 1 onion, 1 heaped teaspoon of crushed garlic, 2 times 4 20-gram cans of tomato soup, approximately 350 grams of mushrooms. I'm adding in 1 large handful of spinach because dinner for me always needs something green. 1 1/4 cups of dry brown rice. Of course, you can use white rice if you prefer. Now the other ingredient that you'll need will be powdered sour cream. If you're in Australia or New Zealand, it's going to be pretty difficult to find. So I actually got this shipped from America. It was expensive, but if you are doing a lot of your own dehydrating for your own hikes, then definitely worth it. Step 1. Wash and prepare your vegetables. Slice your mushrooms no bigger than 1/4 inch thick and dice up your onion. Step 2. Heat up your pan and place on your onion and garlic. One of the biggest things to consider when dehydrating food is to minimize as much fat as possible, so we won't be using any oil. Just make sure your pan is non-stick. Once your onions are starting to cook down, set them aside into a bowl. Step 3. Cook your mince in the pan, again without using any oil. As the meat is cooking, chop down any larger chunks, as the smaller the pieces, the faster it can dehydrate. Once your beef is cooked, remove it from the heat. Step 4. Place your cooked mince into a strainer, boil a full kettle, and pour boiling water over your mince. This again helps to reduce the fats within the meat. You can then rinse the meat under a tap with warm water. Sift through the beef with your fingers. This is your chance to break down any more larger chunks of meat. This rinsing process will also help reduce any of the fats. You can stop rinsing once you feel that the meat is no longer greasy on your fingers. Step 5. Rinse your pan and place on your cans of tomato soup. Place your onions, garlic and mince back into the pan and give that a stir. Finally, add in your mushrooms. Keep stirring until your mushrooms have cooked down. Once your mixture has cooled down, you can start to put it onto the trays of your dehydrator. If the holes of your dehydrator are too big where the food will just fall through, you can either use one of these that came with your dehydrator, but if you don't have enough, you can use tinfoil. Side note, tinfoil tends to work best when dehydrating ingredients individually, so I'd actually recommend using silicone sheets. I'm using ones by a brand called Agrina. Step 6. Create an even and thin layer onto the trays. Turn your dehydrator on to its highest setting. Mine reaches 70 degrees Celsius. Step 7. Keep checking back on your dehydrator every couple of hours to rotate your trays and make sure there are no larger clumps that have stuck together. Time will vary depending on your dehydrator, but this process usually takes 8 to 12 hours. You know your food will be done as the vegetables will become quite brittle and the mince will be quite hard. So because my dehydrator is not big enough to dehydrate everything at once, I'm going to do the rice separately. So once each element is done, I'm just storing it into an airtight container, and then once the rice is dehydrated, I'm going to package everything up together. Step 8. Rinse your rice and cook it either using a rice cooker or a pot. Again, evenly spread the rice out, ready for dehydration. So now that everything has finished dehydrating, I've just laid it out on the bench in front of me. This recipe serves 4, so I'm going to divide it up into 4 meals. You can either put it into Ziploc bags or you can vacuum seal them and store it in the freezer until you need to take it out for your next trip. Don't forget to put in your powdered sour cream. About 2 tablespoons for each serving will be sufficient. Of course, if you don't have powdered sour cream, you can eat it without it, or bring along some fresh sour cream if your hike permits it. As a bonus tip, you can also add a layer of paper towel if the edges of your mince are too sharp and cutting into your vacuum bags. Don't forget to write the name of the meal and the date onto the bag. When you're ready to rehydrate your food, pour some water into your pot, just enough so that the waterline covers the top of your food. Bring that water to the boil, and then you can pour in your food and let it sit covered for about 10 minutes. Once that's done, give it a nice stir and enjoy.